Hello and welcome to Family Focus, a TV talk show dedicated to addressing real family challenges in the United Kingdom. Over 27 episodes will be exploring topics such as domestic abuse, financial struggles, child abuse, bullying, mental health, divorce, social media, and positive parenting. Our mission is to raise awareness and combat the stigma and provide solutions that make a positive impact on the UK families. Join us on this journey of hope and guidance in Family Focus, Threads of Love, Stories of Life. Today's topic is a focus on autism and special needs in children. In this episode, we explore the details of supporting children with autism and special needs. We are offering a platform for valuable discussions and insights. Join us as we explore the challenges faced by our families and the role of specialists in providing such essential support. From early interventions to navigating external resources, our aim is to foster a better understanding of our responsibilities, and we invite you to take part in this compassionate dialogue that seeks to empower and inspire you. We are creating a more inclusive and supportive environment for every child, regardless of their unique needs. Today we meet Mr. Abdul Mukit. He is the Assistant Head Teacher for Inclusions and Special Educational Needs. He's a qualified SENCO with national accreditation, bringing over 20 years of teaching experience and 15 years as a senior leader. Mr. Mukit has worked in 2 London boroughs, which is Newham and Redbridge. He was also a key part of establishing an additional resource provision at his previous school, specifically for pupils with autism spectrum disorder. So for my select audience, I'm not looking at Abdul Mukit, I'm assistant head teacher, I'm special needs or specialist. So I'm Razara Bachina, so in there special needs as I'm Razakta Hoy autism or Oino Kuno Doronor Zudi Kuno Tarar needs Tahe, Tain a field or Mazakam person for almost 20 years now. So Taina so Naizaman Loge as a guest, and I'm not Tan Loge Matimoisko Tan experience and Tan knowledge so what can help us. So in today's episode, we will be shining the light on autism and special needs in children. With your extensive experience in schools, we obviously hope that our audience can get some valuable insights into some of these issues. And I'm sure our listeners and the audience will greatly benefit in dealing with some of these challenges. So, Mr. Abdul Mukib, bye. Obviously, I have to call you by, you know that. Please tell us a bit about your experience and please add anything that I've missed, because I know you have so much. So I feel like I've missed a few things, but you give us some more.
Oh, you haven't. You've covered it all in a nutshell, really. That introduction, this one, more or less, broadly, you have covered my experience. Yes, I have worked as a teacher for 20 years, 15 of those years as a senior leader. And special needs has been a passion of mine for a long time, and I've worked with children and families, vulnerable children and families, for over 15 years, and it's, like I said, it's a passion, and I very much enjoy making a difference in those lives.
Oh, that's brilliant. So obviously we're going to kick off the show, and can you just give us a simple definition of what is autism, especially for those who might not be familiar with it? So autism or manikita?
So autism is a neurodevelopmental difference that affects the way people think and communicate and interact with others. So there are brain development not quite what we expect. What we neurotypical zatahoy, neurotypical brains are wired up differently, so they see the world differently, and that then impacts their ability to interact in social situations with others and communicate with others as well.
Okay, so for our Bengali audience, so autism, what can we say in a nutshell? I know it's quite hard to explain in Bangla, but yeah.
Yeah, so autism we look the brain conditions, মাতকতা যেটা কমিউনিকেশন দ্য রিসেপটিভ আর এক্সপ্রেসিভ রিসেপটিভ মানে হলো যেটা বুঝে আর এক্সপ্রেসিভ হলো যেটা হয় সো রিসেপটিভ এক্সপ্রেসিভ ল্যাঙ্গুয়েজের তারার ডিফিকাল্টি থাকে তারার থিঙ্কিংও ডিফারেন্ট থাকে সামটাইমস তারার যে একটা interest থাকে is very it can be quite obsessive থাকে যে জিনিস পালা পায় ও জিনিস পালা পাইব একটা খালি পালা পাইব অন্যটা বা দিস সাওয়া very difficult so তারা needs ওইলগি very different তারা আপনি social cues একটা হয় আমরা মাতিলে আপনি মাতিছন পোজ লইছন আমি আনসার করছি তারা এটা নেসেসারিলি বুঝতো নাই আপনার facial expression আমি দেখিয়া বুঝতাম পারি যে আমি যেন এক জিনিস how you feel
okay
ওটা তারা necessarily pick up করে না আর eye contact যেটা নানি মানাইতে তারা লাগি খুবই ডিফিকাল্ট হয়
Okay. So আমরা basically হইতাম পারমু যে আমরা লকা একটা বাচ্চার যদি 5 years old একটা ডেভেলপমেন্ট যেটা আছে হয়তো এই বাচ্চার এই সেম ডেভেলপমেন্ট থাকতো না so they'll be a bit different.
Yes, absolutely. So আমরা the developmental milestones যখন আছে আপনার বাচ্চা যদি 5-year-old মাঝে একটা তারা developmental stages আছে for a 5-year-old you'd expect certain things from them মাত কথা interaction তারা play or imagination ওটা জিনিস থাকে but children that are on the autistic spectrum a spectrum মানে হলো গিয়ে একটা সব সমান নাই everyone comes
so আমরা in Bangla terms we can say একটা level আছে so হয়তো একটা autistic বাচ্চার maybe অতটা কিছু বোঝা যায় না because they still okay in society তারা সব লগে ফাংশন করতে পারে just with small differences আর কেউ আছে একেবারে মানে তারা different in a different world
absolutely and yeah the কেউ আছে যেন autism mild থাকবো certain traits থাকবো আর কেউ আছে a lot more severe আর লগে থাকতে পারে other associated learning difficulties like ADHD থাকতে পারে so তার behavior quite heavily impact করে so yes it's a varied and wide spectrum.
Okay, so how can we identify the signs of autism in a child?
So autism, I mean, obviously autism আমরা নিজে diagnose করি না. We don't do the diagnosis. Diagnosis is a complex process done by a multidisciplinary team. So CDC normally for a child development center you have educational psychologist, you'll have a speech and language therapist and occupational therapist as well. Triangulation for a assessment is quite complex and but as parents what we can see is the subtle differences maybe or sometimes more serious differences. So common traits বাচ্চা যারা autism আছে এরা they may play in a particular way so interest for example they will line things up
and it has to be a perfect line
absolutely and they will leave it as a line and then they will not tolerate it
being a little bit left
absolutely.
or right I've seen one of the children like literally one line that I say mani lagbo ke ruler the line that I say so they're so specific and so accurate and detailed. I've also seen children like they match colors, everything has to be in color order. Is that also
absolutely so these are some of the traits kono bachcha says and yo korbo apnar sensory need থাকতে পারে so certain taste certain touch they don't like or they like so kono bachcha says and will only eat food of certain color. So explore করতে না অন্যখানি they find it difficult so একটা আমরা mindful থাকা লাগে
আমরা তো ফট করে কই দিমু না নিও গে খালি সাতাই গে খায় না ও খালি কইবো হকটা খাইতো like obviously we're not I've seen that in our Bengali community especially like we're not thinking what's going on behind the scenes why is it that I've seen a child one thing cannot touch another thing. So the vegetables cannot be touching. So we'll come back slowly to that. We're going to take a short break. Dear viewers, we are taking a short break. Please stay with us and we will be back and we will continue our discussions on the signs and symptoms of recognizing autism. Thank you very much. Dear viewers, welcome back on Family Focus, where today our topic is autism and special needs in children. I have Abdul Mukit Bhai here with me today, who is a specialist in SEN. I mean, he's a Senko, he's an assistant head, he's a DSL, he's done so many things, and he has so much experience under his belt. And today he will be discussing some of the things, or his opinion and experience in everything that he's been doing, so that we can raise awareness and we can also identify some of the signs and symptoms and early interventions in autism. So, Abdul Mukit Bhai, we were talking about identifying signs of autism in children, and we were talking about things like, the children, how they would line up things. So, bacha tara, for instance, garin. একেবারে লাইন ধরাইয়া থইব নাইলে খালার মাছ খরাইয়া থইব ও কিছু যদি খাওয়ার থাকে তারা so they have specific needs and traits. So can you give us a few more examples that might be familiar with our Bengali audience?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So no, you're absolutely right. কোনো সময় আসে যেন লাইন ধরে যেন থইব না and they will leave it. And they get distressed if someone else touches it, and they'll want it that way, so you can't tidy it up. So it's there's routine and structure that are like very important. So the bachchanani possible with some of the traits so that are like certain time they would like. It's important for them to have routine and structure. That are routine at timetables would tik they become dysregulated and upset. So that's very important for them as well. Speech and language delay sometimes. Speech and language on maze, like I said earlier, the receptive and expressive data. It's important to make sure that that we identify these things early on. And one thing by itself isn't necessarily
autism. There'll be various.
So it's a number of things that we have together that has that kind of those raises those concerns because we don't do the diagnosis, and then it's important to, if you've got concerns, parents that are sinta tha hai bachcha lagi, I strongly recommend to go and see a GP or speak to the health visitor or speak to the school if the child is of school age. Often what we find in schools, bachcha nani, they were born in this country, and they come to school, nursery reception maybe, and straight away we can identify there are needs there with that child, but for some reason it hasn't been picked up.
Okay.
And often lack of availability of services or understanding and it hasn't been picked up by the services, which should have happened anyway.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. We've got a caller online, so let's see who this caller is. Hello? Hello, caller, can you hear us? Have we got a caller online? Hello, caller, can you hear us?
Hello?
We do have a caller online. I think there's a slight difficulty in getting them in. Hello?
Hello?
Hello? Unfortunately,
yes, hello, hi.
Sound. Dear viewers, so while we're waiting for this caller, you can see the number across the screen.
Hello.
We also have a Facebook page, so do join us on Facebook, drop your comments. Also, do put in things that you want us to discuss. If there's anything of particular interest that you want Family Focus to bring to you guys and kind of raise awareness, please do that through Facebook. We also have an app, so do download that app so you can watch us in HD quality. And I know some of you guys are always on the go, so you don't have Sky, but they're the two places that you can catch us if you're not at home and you're not with Sky. Do we still have the call online? No, I think we don't. Okay, yeah, we don't have a call online, so sorry to interrupt you. So how can families identify signs of special needs or autism as such? Because আমরা families often আমরা একটু we take a step back and we think, oh না বাচ্চারা যেবলা বড় হইব আস্তে আস্তে এমনিও ঠিক হয়ে যাব ও এমনিও শান্তি করে একটা আসলে কিছু চিন্তা করার না স্কুলে গেলে এমনি ঠিক হয়ে যাব. How can families recognize it?
So recognition as in we discussed as a few things, few traits as that are dekhta family. Family also is about Amra as a community we're nuclear families more so now.
Yes.
So some of our families are more from my experience, parents are from kind of nuclear families where they don't necessarily have the experience of parenting or have other children, so it's difficult to compare one child to the next. So the developmental milestones after they haven't got someone to compare it with, and lockdown has had a massive impact on this as well. Families have been isolated further, so therefore it has in the interaction, social interaction that has been limited because of that, and we find that more and more children are coming through schools with difficulties that haven't been picked up. So we need parents to educate themselves, and if there is a concern, we want them to seek support.
We've got a caller online.
Sure.
Let's try and take the call and see. Hello, caller, can you hear us? Hello? You're through to the studio. Can you hear us? Hello, caller. We can't pick up their sound. Hello? Hello? Ah, they dropped. I think someone's really desperate to get through, but we can't hear them. Okay, so we were talking about, you know, like when children are, you know, when you have a newborn, you have a visitor, you know, like as in, what do they call them? Home visits, health visitors, and you have midwife visits and things like that. So after COVID, এখন দেখা যায় যে আমরা বাকাইতা সার্ভিসেস কমে গেছে. So যারা ফ্যামিলির মাঝে আমরা extended family নাই, যে একসময় আমরা extended family আসলাম, দাদা দাদি আসলাম, আব্বা আসলা, you know, ভাই বোন আসলা, ভাই বোনের লগে হয়তো তারার হাজব্যান্ড ওয়াইফও আসলা. It was a massive extended family. এখন আমরা obviously একলা থাকি আর আমরা একলা একলাও একটা জারি গড়ে দোয়ারে থাকলা. First of all, not as a criticism, but it is more so that মানুষের স্পেসের দরকার, ইলা আগল্লাখান ইলা থাকা যায় না. Plus আমরা হুরুতার needsও চেঞ্জ হয়ে গেছে. So to support that, so we do find that যারার নয়া বাচ্চা হইছে তারা এটা সাইন ও symptoms are actually pick up করতে পারেন না. How would you say that we support them then?
So amra as a family or friends, I think we need to be available. As an lagi amra available taha is important. Also to not criticize or you know, I'm not problem with children with learning difficulties or autism. Amra ekta social stigma ase, and amra community maze regretfully ekta jinish ase jara they look down upon, and this isolates families, this isolates people. And there's no shorom in that at all. So it shouldn't be a shorom. It's you know, and what we do know about working with children with learning difficulties, they are individuals. They have their own interests, they have their own skills. Some of them are absolute geniuses. You know, they're very bright. They have the interest. They, you know, those who are kind of on the further down the spectrum where they're very high functioning, you know, they can be musical geniuses, artistic geniuses, mathematicians and things like that. And you know, there is a place for everyone in society, and it's Amra community maza, we need to learn to accept the differences and not to stigmatize people because they have, and in particular they may act up a little bit, or you know,
behavior issues. We don't call it behavior issues. What it is they're developing, and they're also coping with the changes in themselves already. And if you have that need on top of these changes, obviously it's a bit harder.
Absolutely. And when we have these children, and if they have got needs, they can, as as other members of the community, we can look at them and give them funny looks.
Of course, we can.
And I've witnessed that for myself. I've seen parents in the playground who are struggling with children with SEN, and other parents looking at them like they've done something wrong. They haven't. They haven't. And we mustn't. And as a community, as Bengalis, as we need to understand and accept that these are people, human beings, and the isolation that comes with having a child with SEN is quite immense. It's very immense.
So often our families are rila bachai na so with difficulties. Amra tarare isolate holla like ekhla falayate de kunano dawad di barilo dawad dein amra khoimona tara yale amra fagol holli ba shobre buite ditana khaite ditana, but actually that family also need respite. Respite holo rest basically. Ze aro manchologe amra socialize khori mati jo khori amra ro ekta well being ase as parents, and it's nice to interact with other parents and other families, but often also those families with children with those difficulties tara zaina because tara ro shorom khore ze gele amar bachcha ekta jinish mangilibo or khairul mari dibo, or we do find different needs in children, as in khamra khamri khore, they bite, or they hit, or they scream, shout, so other people will be disturbed. And it's quite sad to see that in the society. I understand the parents' point of view, I do get it, because sometimes those children do get very dysregulated. Tarar space balafai, tarar routine balafai, and obviously time it won't be according to your routine. Why is early intervention crucial? So amra khene as early as possible khene amra treatment seek kortam.
As parents and educators, our intention is to give them the best possible start in life. And education is a medium and schools are a medium for children to prepare them for the next part of their adult life.
We've got another call online. Hello, caller, can you hear us? Hello? Hello? Hello, caller, can you hear us? It's dropped again. Every time you get into the swing of it. I'm sorry, callers, if you're trying to get through. We're trying to put you through, and I'm not sure why your call is dropping, but do continue trying. So yeah, you were saying, sorry.
So schools are a forum for preparing children for the next part of their life.
So zoto sho khalamra ota sign symptoms dekhmo, zoto sho khalamra help sikormo. We're helping the children.
Absolutely, and in this current climate, services are quite limited. So we need to be mindful of that, and anything that took possibly 6 months in the past will now take 2 to 3 years, and that is regretfully the absolute truth. And so the sooner we get things started. So I mean, to give you an example, so I'm not bachain schooloain who have been born and brought up in this country, and they start school and there's no previous history or diagnosis or anything. Now for a school to put support in place, we need to understand the child's needs, we need to make various referrals.
So bachar kita symptoms ekta se ekta note korta hai. Maybe would you say the first place is GP ke se zaita nina school log, because obviously by 1.5 2 years old buza za ekta bachar ze ektuk like development isn't as it should be.
Sure.
So would you say their first place of call would be a GP, or would it be like nursery, preschool?
It could be either or both, but GP is usually a faster route. So GP route balatahe. Health visitor is also another good person. So young children that if they notice anything, they need to share that with the health visitor, who can then make the onward referrals. So it's absolutely paramount. It's important that we get the earlier we start, the sooner. So it's not about getting a label for the child. It's about the diagnosis, and diagnosis it gives us an understanding of the child's needs, and then what we do as schools is work towards with some children educational health care plans. And
so educational healthcare plan for our facility audience, obviously, it's something that we as schools or GPs but professionals are so in shobe ekhano ya ekta assessment korin assessment koriya tara ekhano dekhoin je bachchar ekta pattern kita so educational psychologist hoyto pare je o pattern ami pick up korsi er bade speech language hoyto pare je okay bachcha maten na according to their level so okta ekhano koriya tara o plan banay and then we have an educational healthcare plan where we then go according to that. Is that what an educational healthcare plan is?
Yes, more or less that's what it is. And maba foro ekta section takhe. So fulla section takhe bar bachcha about the child. So it's pretty much the families, as it's family focus, it's pretty much the families who are contributing towards that. About the family, parents or views or whole share horai. And the background in history if that's necessary. Then obviously the professionals and their reports and AHC plan or kind of the main section right at the end is the outcomes. So what are schools working towards? Maybe if it's a young child by the end of Key Stage 1, if it's a slightly older child, maybe end of Key Stage 2 or secondary school age, or you know, it all depends on what that.
So is the EHCP like sort of adapted as the child grows?
Absolutely. So it's a process known as the annual review. So every year the plan gets reviewed and looked at and it gets amended accordingly. Because some children make accelerated progress.
So zara EHCP asil tara yearly tara review korbo khoriya je bachchar je needs ase kuch update kora lagle update korbo. Okay.
Yeah. So then we also have the termly progress meetings. So we look at the children's progress every term and then decide whether or not, you know, things need to change.
Okay. So I khal khaza ze amra diagnosis beshi obviously we've seen a rise, like a spike in special needs. Echte pattern aseni or fointer beshitakhini na furinter beshitakhe from your opinion basically.
Yeah. So that's a very interesting question. Generally boys fointer takhe beshiake autism identify khorai because girls are very good at masking it. It doesn't mean the girls are any less susceptible to being on the spectrum.
The furinter mas symptoms Home
dekhazai because they learn to mask it. So they learn to cope with things far easier than boys do. But that doesn't mean they're not finding the difficulties and challenges that are linked to those conditions. But Fuente, on the whole, express themselves. And the girls don't necessarily do that.
They don't.
So we've got to be, as schools, we are very careful about that to make sure that girls don't go undiagnosed because they need as much help as the boys do because they need impact. There are learning and the developmental impact. It may be a bit more subtle, but regardless, we need, as educators, we need to ensure that we're giving them the best possible support so they can thrive.
So amra furinter maze dekhtam farize tara quiet beshi matenna ba khom mate actually and actually tara maybe speech delay ase but amra mona tara nirai sirai asoin and find dekhmo falafali khorer tara you know I've seen also fataki ho so fat maze falar baragia asta din khelar bade full of energy like they don't know where to store that energy where can family go for help then if we're looking at kind of autism? And we said GPs, we identified preschools.
And family support workers. Health visitors. And obviously schools. And these are kind of your key places.
So I feel everything is taking a lot of time to get through to... I mean, even if you call for a GP, you're waiting weeks. Like the mara yakhumizipor, right?
Absolutely.
So, is there anywhere is there a private kind of route that they can take?
Some parents do take the private route. Obviously, that cost us. And I know many parents who opt for private speech and language therapy for their children because the services aren't necessarily there. So NHS isn't providing it, or the local authorities. The system that they have, the access to services isn't meeting the children's needs. So we are in a dilemma.
Which is waiting list, isn't it? Like speech and language, like they say something like ridiculous, like 2 years.
Yeah, there is waiting list. I think the biggest, the Fola Shopsa Borotoilogi Child Development Center as an assessment, where the diagnosis is given, whatever it is. And the other one, they can growing rise in mental health issues within children. Again, autistic children, neurotypical children as well. Access to services is also quite limited. Because CAMS, Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, are very stretched. And they're a very small service that's providing for a very big community. And it's not ideal, but it is what it is, and schools are stretched and being asked to provide some of that, and some schools do it very well. They have mental health support services within the school. They may have art therapy or play therapists within the school. They may train some of their LSAs to become ELSAs or emotional literacy support assistants.
So schools tara nije nijor board service nije internally provide kora lager or upskilling their staff so that they can then start providing that care and therapy for these children. Why do you think it's essential to cover these topics in our community? Because our community maze ekta stigma se shorom ase about these topics. From your point of view, obviously you're Bengali, you grew up as a British citizen. Why do you think it's really important for us to address this?
I think it's absolutely invaluable. Amra community maze amra languages ekta use khorinanizen to describe children with learning difficulties is derogatory, in my opinion. And I think আমরা language বদলাইতাম, we need to change our narrative about how we talk about them. আমরা judgment যেটা, judging parents, judging children, কোনো সময় আসে না, there's often in families you see pointing fingers, blaming, and often it's the woman that's blamed. তোমার বড় দোষ.
Yeah.
Because of you. Allah say. But that is not the case at all, and we need to change that, and we need to educate ourselves.
You know, when she was pregnant with the child, I've heard so much, but actually this is all scientific, it's genetic, it's more than just the mother's
Absolutely.
fault.
The genes and what we do know is the primary genes in children with autism is the father's gene.
Okay, so, oh wow, that's an interesting one that you've just dropped that before we go on break. Actually, we need to revisit this after we come back. Dear viewers, we are going on a very short break. We will be back very soon, and we need to discuss how the genetics lie with the father. That's a new one that I've heard. So please stay with us, and we will be back soon. Thank you very much. Dear viewers, welcome back to Family Focus, where today's topic is autism and special needs in children. I have Abdul Mukit Bhai here with me today, who is a specialist in his field. He is a Senko, he is an assistant head for another school. So we were talking about how a lot of the genetics apparently lie with the father, and that's a misconception within the community that it's always the mother's fault. However, before we go on to that, I want to just encourage our viewers, please call the number. You can see the number across the screen. We also have Facebook, we also have the app, so do download the app and you can see us in HD quality, and you can see us in on the go, basically. So I know in your busy lives you do want to tap in and you do want to listen to us, but if you're not home and you don't have Sky, you've got the app and you've got Facebook, and do put your comments on there so we can bring more topics to you guys. So we're going back to the fathers. That was a very interesting thing that you just dropped in there before we went on break. So আমরা community মাঝে বেশিরভাগ মা হলরে দুইটা হয় যে বাচ্চার একটা ডিফিকাল্টি আছে মার কারণে, but scientifically you said
scientifically it's often a gene that is passed on by the father in most cases, so therefore it is unfair আমরা বাফলে যদি মা হলরে ব্লেম করই না নি যেন লইছে এটা জিনিস রাইট নাই, fair না, scientifically right নাই, ethically and morally is incorrect.
Okay, well, thank you for that. So why do you think there's a growth in autistic children? So আমরা এখানে মনে করি যে numbers are growing, trend kita.
So numbers grow got 2021 percent population asil 12.6% of children within schools, about 0.6% asil. And last year, 2022.
So, 2021.
It was 12.6%, and it's risen to 13% of.
So, in 2 years, you can see the 2%.
Yeah. So there's a trend where the numbers are growing. And the khueta zinisha se iktar kharona se. Echtoilogia zen medical advancements echtoises and bachchan and premature bachchan there are survival rate much higher because medical advancement means that they are going for it. But premature bachchan there are the developmental organs and neurological development can be delayed and can be stumped. So so a lot of the children amra jehta dekhi can be very premature babies. So we live in a very busy society. Career chase so are a lot older than they used to be.
So boyosh ekhon jara dekha jay je bachcha or jara the moms tarar boyosh beshi
late 30s 40s that the chance of a child with tarar bachcha jodi autism is higher to have a child with autism. Social domestic factors that are substance misuse or drug, alcohol, use again that can impact.
That kind of impact.
Absolutely. Numbers barrier because families they're seeking out diagnosis as well. So understanding your barrier, and they're looking for diagnosis so they can help the children.
And some people are recognizing it sooner.
Which is a positive move forward.
Okay, great. And there was something interesting that you said. So special provisions, 10% of special needs children.
Yeah, so amra jodi school population dekinani bachchantor, so special schools ase for children with quite extreme behavior. Not behavior necessarily, extreme needs. Only 10% of them go to special schools, and that which means the remaining 90% are mainstream schools, which doesn't mean their needs are any less. So as schools, their needs are more and more is a lot greater, and the challenges they present are higher. And it's not just challenges for the children, challenges for families and parents as well.
And it's challenging for schools, and we can say that because we both work in schools.
Absolutely.
Like we're being so much pressure is being put on us, but the money's not there. No, it's not just about money as well. We're talking about provision. Because funding so funding how do you give that quality? We also find that sometimes parents will say, oh, আমার বাচ্চার EHCP আছে, তুমি দিতাই 1-to-1 দিতে হইব, but actually 1-to-1 TA দিতে হইব, তার লগে সারা দিন থাকতো জো করতো. But what they don't see is the EHCP maze, they're funding the voice for the 1-to-1. It actually does not cover the cost of a 1-to-1. And maybe sitting on the business side, I do see that because we have on cost solar tax, national insurance, you know, pensions. Shopta employer side dotaki pay korar bade dekha jay we're almost paying double.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And the difficulty look here, it's the provisions there's two things about 1-to-1. Like you identified, isn't necessarily 1-to-1. But the second thing is 1-to-1 necessarily is not a good thing for children.
It's not a good thing for the staff too, because we do see that sometimes it takes a toll on the staff. There's staff that are sharadin ila ekta bachchar loge jodi thake neni. Let's say for instance bachcha khamri khore maramari khore, they're hitting, biting. Thara sharadin o bachchar loge thakse 5 days a week for like the whole school year. We're asking a person to sit there and tolerate that. How are we protecting them and their well-being?
Yeah. So the first thing I will say is hats off to those people who work with LSAs, and I think they are absolutely fantastic human beings who choose to work with children, vulnerable children and families, because it is a choice, because a lot of these people can earn more working in other sectors, but they choose to work with the children. So they are a valuable resource within the schools. Regretfully, there aren't enough of them. And the needs, needs barrier nani,
the staff isn't growing as fast.
Stretched. We are being stretched more. So we have got fantastic staff who work, relentlessly with children, despite khamri, despite the hitting. But they aren't able. We're not able to. We haven't got enough.
Yes.
Ultimately, so. Historically, we were, as schools, we were able to do things like interventions to support and things like additional speech and language or language for thinking, box clever. There's a lot of different things that we used to do. We are not able to do them now because the additional adults aren't there. So the class TA we had historically is no longer in existence. Every other adult,
no more a class TA, it becomes basically 1-to-1 with a special child. And actually in classrooms now we don't just see, like when I used to go to school, there was maybe one child in the whole school that had been identified as having special needs, right? Okay, it might be that they hadn't identified other children that do have it, but we're talking severe behavior and needs and things like that. In one classroom we have like 4 or 5 children with severe needs, and they need high needs, and we're talking literally 1-to-1 space with they need sensory rooms. How are we meant to cope with that as a Senko? How would you say people should cope with that?
I wish I had a magic wand and I could resolve that, but unfortunately I don't. On my way to work, radio, they were talking about the number of teachers leaving the profession because they are exhausted. And this is very much linked to, because teachers are no longer just teachers. Teachers amra ma, ba fotaki, social worker otaki, mental health expert otaki. So all of these additional responsibilities, because service is nigh. So we, as schools, we can't just say, oh, there isn't service there or support there, so be it. We can't do that. Ethically and morally, it's wrong. We're there for the children.
And there's a duty of care, isn't it?
Absolutely. So we then try and kind of fill those gaps. And again, by filling those gaps, we are exhausting ourselves and tiring ourselves. But that's a different topic altogether.
And teachers are being put under pressure, like for instance from Ofsted, like if we're talking about SEN children and inclusion, what they see, they will want to come and test in the school, and if you don't have the funds and the resources and the human resources even, how do you prove that? And then the pressure that they're putting on with the gap is growing between the funding and the needs, and schools are being asked to fill that gap. Zechta gap ase ochta fill koro. So obviously you sit on senior leadership, you know that as well. However, obviously schools are in a very difficult position. Let's see if together we can come up with a solution.
Inshallah. Yeah, and the thing is, ultimately who misses out? Amra families, Amra bachan. So, you know, it's not because, and there are parents who are probably struggling to get the support within schools. We acknowledge that, we understand that, we know that's there, but it's not a lack of trying. So, you know, one-to-one, we said a few times.
And it's not that we don't care, because often we do also have parents, amar bachchar ekta difficulty ase, then you don't care, you know, how is that possible? It's not that we don't care. Sometimes, as educationalists, our hands are tied with these invisible ropes.
Absolutely, yeah, they are, and we despite that, we want to help our parents as much as we can, and we need to change one of the notions. A language, we need to change the one-to-one. Amra one-to-one nani bachare limit khore ar progress etare agoite dena, because that bacha, you know, like
person or dependent
is and they're not learning as we limit their progress. So tarare amra enhance khora lagi, move forward khora lagi, amra we need to make sure that we prepare them for the next part of their life.
So put them in groups and let them socialize and be in a classroom environment rather than being excluded. It's more let's include them. And I understand and I totally get it that they might cause disruption to the rest of the class. It might add pressure to the teachers and stuff. But if we're looking at the bigger picture, the future we need to support them through that.
Absolutely, and the document that kind of guides that is the Sen Code of Practice, and if any of our viewers want to access it, it's easily accessible online. It's a DFE publication, and it outlines the different categories of needs. There are 4 categories that we work with. You know, because I'm autism now, so we've got the 4 categories, broad categories we look at, cognitive and learning, communication and interaction, social, physical development, and social, mental, emotional health. So these are the kind of 4 broad categories. So we, as schools, the approach used is known as the graduated approach. So assess, plan, do, review. So bachai assess what they can do, what their challenges might be, plan for how we're going to support them. Kun provision lagbo kita haraitam kita tara lagi set up portam. So that's the planning stage. Assess, plan, do, and then we actually put into practice.
So schools or have responsibility to help these children.
And then after we do, we review. We look at a timely kind of review time to look at how effective it's been. So support Khalidia Oena without it being effective. So we've got to make sure that we are reviewing and
checking. And it's a two-way process. So I'm often kita kori hurutare school dia koi school responsibility. But actually, ilazu the special needs or ekta normal child lagi ekta there has to be two-way communication between the school and the parents. However, for children with special needs, we need the parents on board as well to come together and also support us through that. That if we're doing something in school, are you doing the same thing at home?
And absolutely. And our experience takinani, the ones that thrive are the ones who have parents that engage wholly with the school and take part and really embrace everything that's given to them.
And take the positive out of something that they see as negative.
Yeah, and look at the glass as being half full and not half empty.
Exactly.
That mindset change and that can happen if they're supported by family
and friends.
And that mindset is difficult to change. I mean, from my experience, biggest concern to have family nani is how are they going to be as adults? So when I'm not around, will this child
what's the next stage
for this child? And the worry about the children, which is legitimate. We understand, but we can set them up to be independent as much as we can.
We have a comment on Facebook from Saeed Bakt. If autism is a spectrum, then that means that 2 autistic children aren't the same. So how are teachers trained to ensure every child gets the right assistance?
Okay, so to kind of broadly answer that question is the teachers receive training on autism.
So teachers are training on autism.
On autism,
Okay.
and every child, if their needs are, so like with our neurotypical children, as I mentioned earlier, every child's needs will be looked at separately. So the EHC plan tahlenani that outline what the outcomes for that child is. So the teachers will work towards those outcomes,
that.
and they do that through the IEP target setting, the educational target setting IEPs, and they will then review those termly with the parents involved and other professionals who are involved.
We've got a caller online. Let's just see if we can take this call. Hello, caller. Can you hear us? Hello? I think we're having difficulty with our callers today. Caller, can you hear us?
Hello, Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello?
आपने फोन डाल दिया हमारे.
Hello? Oh, unfortunately, the sound is...
आपने हमारे फोन डाल दिए.
and we've had so many callers today, and actually no one sounds...
Hello, can you hear me?
Can you hear us? Oh, it dropped. Oh, that's such a shame. I'm so sorry, guys. You know, if you're having difficulty to get through, please do drop your comments or your questions on our Facebook page. We are trying to pick it up from there as well. And of course, you've got that app, so do follow us on that app. So, how can our community become more inclusive and supportive of children with autism? So, amra community ake amra zara bachcha indikar autism ase families in fact যে তারার একটা বাচ্চা আছে ইলা আমরা তারার কিলা ইনক্লুসিভ করতাম
some simple things let's it's about acceptance আমরা তারারে accept করতাম আমরা তারারে understand করতাম small things make massive difference. And I know how families become isolated because their children aren't invited to simple things like birthday parties. And how must that parent feel when their child is excluded like that? And even in the classroom, there might not be relatives, so they're in a classroom, every other child has been invited to someone's birthday party, but they haven't. So it's, if your child is autistic, or if you've got another child in the class who is, and you're having a party for your children, be mindful, invite them to the party as well. They may have to come with a parent, but that will mean a huge lot for the parents. And I know the amount of parents who become distressed and upset because excluded.
Them. And of course, sometimes it's not just about the child; it's also about their parents and what is just even going out for a cup of tea, a coffee, that might actually give them that little relief there. Okay, I'm a normal life, I'm finding that support. We can say family and friends, but sometimes they can build their own network, isn't it, of parents. Like we see that in our schools as well, like parents become friends and they go out for coffee dates and things like that.
Absolutely, and it's so important that they do that. Network build Khoranani very important. So, parents like parents who have similar experiences, they can share their experiences. My child might be older than your child, and I've been through certain things. I'm able to then say to you, try this or try that, and then just being able to talk to someone and share those experiences is invaluable. It's really important. So those things, and schools often have coffee mornings. So coffee morning tara yo khore set up khore for
it's
parents.
Like coffee mornings because it's a
price of coffee. Unfortunately.
Price of coffee, price of milk.
I think COVID or daranani because it was that kind of the social distancing which kind of put a stop to a lot of these really important things. But I think as schools we need to bring it back, consciously bring it back, and remember that we have these parents who are
schools are working very hard they are working endlessly to try and get these things back, but obviously we're up against there's nothing in the pot. It's an empty pot as far as we can see. So foshanai. So amra khali khoyar aro deo amra ta khorta tarar jodi nai ta khite amra rekila dito, what I mean.
But we can do schools we can do things that don't really cost money either. Just on they can
bring your own coffee.
Bring your own coffee. Bring your own coffee. Bring your own biscuit. And I know from first-hand experience how valuable that is. I mean, for I had 2 parents turn up to my coffee morning, and one of them was a member of staff at the school as well as being a parent. Bless her.
They turned up.
And then over the years, we had entire families coming to these events.
Nice.
And our children were very much a part of these events. Sa biscuit tara serve horta sa okay obviously hot but biscuit whole serve horta parents they tara introduce horta what they
It's
did.
giving them social skills
Absolutely.
build or
So,
confidence or build or
life skills and social skills they're doing, so it was really valuable and the parents felt very proud of the children standing there watching them and there wasn't a dry face. There's never a dry face in it because they're so proud of the children, and we want them to be, and they should be, and those children are absolutely amazing, you know, that are, they look at the world differently, they see it differently, you know. It's not a disability, it's a different ability, so we've got to have that
mentality,
you know. They're amazing people.
But we do also get amra community maze often negative comments থাকে, so manche fotkhori khoi diba igo awai ge kita buzbo igo behind igo zanena. So again, through these maybe coffee mornings and things like that, we can try and raise awareness. Have you heard of those terms being used at all in your life and experience?
Similar. I mean, I had to deal with a parent a few years ago, and the bachar hearing aid dorkar asil. And I don't understand the stigma of hearing aids. It's like they almost don't want to society
advertise that there's something.
So this child, although needing hearing aids, the mum wasn't putting it on. So with this, through discussion with her, I found out. She said to me, "I'm worried that my daughter won't get married." Which really did baffle me. So I mean,
this is a primary age child.
This is primary age child, and I said to her, I said, if your daughter wears a hearing aid, she will get a good education. She will grow up to be someone amazing, do a good job, and she will pick who she wants to marry. So why, you know, we mustn't look at it as a negative thing, because, you know, culturally it's seen as khalwa or whatever.
Problem because you
wouldn't deny if a child needs glasses, you wouldn't deny them the glasses, would you? So why would we deny them hearing aids? But unfortunately there is a stigma around hearing aids and things like that, which regretfully shouldn't be
but
there.
It is
but
there.
it is there, and we've got to challenge those taboos and make sure we're changing mindsets and we're bringing positivity within our community, and so that they embrace regardless of their needs and abilities.
Okay, and just in that, I know schools have Senkos. Just very quickly, what other specialists do we have in school? We've got a minute before we go on break.
At the moment, it's just Senkos.
Is it just Senkos?
I'll be honest.
Oh,
yeah,
you
just
guys
Senkos.
have been stripped back.
Absolutely, and then you've got the learning support assistants they're very skilled as well. HOTAs know a huge amount of, you know, some of them will be specialists in certain areas like colourful semantics, so it's kind of a literacy development program. Yeah, they grow their specialism.
Okay.
Some might be good at speech and language therapy programs and things like that. So yeah, so the specialism is in-house, and we grow that within house as well.
Okay, so you realistically there's no actual specialist support other than our Senko.
No.
So you're in charge of basically making sure those people are upskilled and tarar skills are there.
Yeah. Upskilling them, making sure the statutory guidelines are met within school.
Okay.
Teachers are meeting the needs of the children. Teachers are signposted and supported to meet the needs of the children.
So Senkos have their work cut out pretty much.
Very, very busy role. We don't sleep at night most nights.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, dear viewers, please stay with us. We're going on a very short break. As you know, we'll be back to discuss autism in more detail. And please stay with us and make sure you're calling in and, you know, commenting on Facebook. And if you haven't, please download the app, and I'll see you shortly. Dear viewers, welcome back to Family Focus, where today's topic is on autism and special needs. As you know, I have Abdul Mukit Bhai here with me. He's a Senko and he's an assistant head for a school. So if we're going back to families with children with autism, can they even imagine a holiday abroad?
Taralagi holidays are difficult and possibly a distant thing, especially bzara bachana khub young, sensory need takhlen. So things like sounds and long distance travel, tarar the routine or break, because obviously traveling abroad,
is a
staying in climate change, weather difference, it can be very, very difficult and very challenging. Some children cope with
but it kind of depends on their needs and where they are basically on the spectrum. So kuno bacha of course can do it,
and others would find it very,
very
very distressing and difficult.
Okay.
So kind of based on that, there's support as a respite and as you can have, because we understand, we recognize that parents that are Bachana with learning difficulties, it's a 24-hour full-time job.
I mean,
for them.
they just want a rest. Forget with children with special needs.
So no, absolutely,
We
and
will need a rest.
they can access support from social services, and we need to understand that social services isn't a big monster that's here to take your children
I know,
away.
Shobe Dorain, isn't it?
Yeah.
Everybody's scared of social services and they think, oh, social services involved, but actually, they can provide services, but what we do find is that, again, social services, it's stripped back so much that they're also struggling with funding and the support that they used to be able to give.
No, and that's true, but regardless, I think
there is some
we need to access
services.
and respite. And I know families that are, the mothers in particular get no rest. So over the weekend, they have a care worker coming in, and they will take the child for an hour or two, sometimes 3 hours. We'll take them to the park or do something enjoyable. And give that mum the break, and and that
nice.
She might want to do her ironing or just sitting down.
I like how you call ironing respite. That's not a rest.
No, I do, so for some people it could be therapeutic. So watching ATN Bangla, that is a luxury for some parents.
Yes.
So by going through social service, you can access that support through, and there's no other way you can do it really.
And also tap into maybe your family and friends and ask them for help, because sometimes amra shormaize manchore khoile shorom khoreze o khali bare bare khoimu amar bachare rakhta bani, can you come in, can you do this? But actually maybe those family members and those friends are happy to help. But tara khoito sanna tumar help because they're also taking a step back, that we don't want to be treading on your toes. Absolutely. You're doing a great job, but we don't want you to feel like you're not doing a great job. So maybe ask for the help.
And both ways. And if you are a friend or a family member to someone who's got a child with learning difficulties, then zikao, ask them, and there's no, if you've got a good relationship with them, there's no harm in saying, listen, I'll have him for an hour. Go and do something, or I'll take them out for a bit, go and do something. It's nice, and it gives a break to the parents as well. And sometimes, like I said before, if you're a parent at the school and you've got a neurotypicals and you see another mum struggling, engage show interest in them, in their child. And they need that. They're desperate for that. And I'm often we'll see those mums looking absolutely, their hair disheveled and clothes and looking really, and it's not because they're not looking after themselves or their child.
Dealing with a lot.
They're dealing with a lot. We don't know, that mother probably hasn't slept all night. And we're judging them because we see them in a certain way. So, to go back, we said it previously, judging koratikna, accepting tarare, making them feel a part of the community, and opening our arms and support to them as well.
So we've got a comment on Facebook. How can social services improve their services so it gives parents a better understanding of their child's condition? What would your take on it be? Of
Okay.
course, you're not.
Although I'm not social services, I have worked very closely with them for many years. Social services are a different tier. So you've got your safeguarding, child protection, social services.
Okay.
Then you've got your child in need.
Okay.
And then you've got your early intervention and you've got your CAF team. So your children with learning difficulties often fall in the child in need because there is vulnerability there.
Okay.
So which isn't necessarily a negative thing.
Yeah.
And I've seen the parent families who work closely with those social workers though, and then they come, they're very empathetic, they approach things differently. They're the disability team basically.
Okay.
And they understand the challenges and they can guide, support, even with financial difficulties that are, adjustments. And I know families where they've moved into a property, a rental property, bathroom tiknais and bacha maybe wheelchair bound. Shower and Qurani cleanliness is a difficult matter. Social services have come in and they've paid for the adjustments that need to be made and things like that. So there is great gain from them. They've also helped with housing. They will push the housing worker.
So social services involved, actually it's not such a negative thing.
Yeah.
There is a positive side to that.
Absolutely. And then obviously, they will, if they do see anything that is of a concern, they'll point it out. But if we're accepting and understanding that, yep, I made a mistake here, let's move forward with this, how do I do this? They're not there to take your children away. And I can guarantee that I've been working with them for 15 years.
Ages, yeah.
That's the last thing they want to do.
Yeah.
But obviously, if there are safeguarding concerns that come up from this, they will act on
high
those.
risk things.
But it's about working with you, not against you.
So in your opinion, what would you say, what's the key takeaways for our viewers to take away from this talk show on autism and special needs? What would your final words be to our audience today?
So my final words would be developing understanding, acceptance.
আমার বাচ্চার একটা ইস্যু আছে আমি accept করতাম.
Absolutely. And community মাঝে আমরা বাচ্চা না শোন এরা accept করতাম. আমরা language change করতাম, how we describe children with learning fagol or arwa or whatever. These aren't good terminologies. Changing our culture in the sense that আমরা তারারে accept করি, have them a part of our community and seek support. So the family or parents that are concerned as a worry as a don't delay it because you're embarrassed or you're shy or you're scared. Go for it.
তোমার বাচ্চারও এফেক্ট হইব আর কেউ এফেক্ট হইব শর্মাইয়া তো বইয়া লাভ হইতো না because it's you that is going to have to deal with the outcome in the end, isn't it?
Definitely.
And all right, so we are slowly coming to the end of our show. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your really invaluable experience and knowledge. I hope someone out there, I'm sure plenty of people out there have taken some of what you've shared with us and they'll take that forward and inshallah you get rewarded for that as well.
Inshallah. That's where we...
So dear viewers, we are slowly coming to the end of our show for this week. As you know, Family Focus is on every fortnight, 8 p.m. on ATN. You can follow us on obviously our Sky channel, or you've got Facebook and you've got the app. However, after today's show and talking about autism in depth with Abdul Mukit Bhai, we can see that আমরা community মাঝে যে কিতা issues আছে আমরা এখানে অত শর্মাই যে আমরা বাচ্চার যদি একটা disability থাকে, especially we're talking autism in this case, এখানে আমরা মানুষের লগে মারতাম চাই না, এখানে আমরা লুকাইয়া রাখতাম চাই। আমরা যদি লুকাইয়া রাখি এটা আমরা আরো ক্ষতিও নি, আমরা বাচ্চার আরো ক্ষতি হইব নি। আমরা যদি early signs দেখতাম পারি, symptoms দেখতাম পারি, আমরা ওটারে লইয়া আমরা একটু treatment seek করতাম। So আপনার পয়লা instance would be আপনারা যদি কোনো signs দেখেন, go to the GP তে ফারিনা স্কুলের থ্রুতে আপনারা signs symptoms recognize করকা, তারা লগে মাতকা, তারা গেছে সেনকো আছে, সেনকো হইলো তারা special needs or একজন specialist, so তারা refer করতে পারবো আপনারা different therapies ওর মাঝে। And together, educational psychologists, we've got speech language therapists, we've got occupational health, and everybody comes together and they will make assessments. And tara assessment koriya, tara busto farbo je afnar bachchar kun need ase. Amra rila jara bachchar asoin, amra tarare awa daki, amra behind koi, amra terminologies ekta ase ita bachcha intol loge, we need to change that terminology. Dekta bachchare amra awa dakhle, disabled dakhle, behind dakhle, ekta parents or kila lager. So please, let's bear this in mind, let's raise the awareness, and of course, please stay with us and Come back with us in the next episode where we'll bring a new topic and, of course, a new guest. Good night and have a good evening.